Hello guys, today in our international business class we are going to be checking something very important, which is ethics in business. What can we understand by ethics in international business? The term ethics refers to accepted principles of right or wrong that governs the conduct of a person, the members of a profession, or the actions of an organization. While when we refer to business ethics, we are referring to accepted principles of right or wrong governing the conduct of business people and an ethical strategy, which is the course of action that does not violate people in their term of rights and accepted principles. Ethical issues in international business are rooted in the fact that political systems, law, economic development, and culture vary significantly from nation to nation. What is considered normal practice in one nation may be considered unethical in another. The first issue to be taken into account is employment practices. And in this case, we want to refer about three important factors. We have working hours, salaries, and safe environment. When work conditions in a host nation are clearly inferior to those in a multinational's home nation, what standards should be applied? Those of the home nation, those of the host nation, or something in between. So we need to be very clear on this in terms of respecting always the rights of people. We need to be clear on having a standard on working hours, salaries, and safe environment for all workers. The next factor to be checked is human rights. Questions of human rights can arise in international business. Basic human rights still are not respected in many nations. Rights taken for granted in developed nations such as freedom of association, freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, freedom of movement, freedom from political repression, and so on are by no means universally accepted. So, at the end, we have to be careful with human rights in regards of international business, since humans are the key of every society. More generally, the question remains, what is the responsibility of a foreign multinational when operating in a country where basic human rights are trampled on? Should the company be there at all? And if it is there, what actions should it take to avoid the situation? An important question, right? The next factor to be checked is environmental pollution. Ethical issues arise when environmental regulations in host nations are inferior to those in the home nation. Many developed nations have substantial regulations governing the emission of pollutants, the dumping of toxic chemicals, the use of toxic materials in the workplace, and so on. Those regulations are often lacking in developing nations. And according to critics, the result can be higher levels of pollution from the operations of multinationals than would be allowed at home. The next factor to be checked is corruption. Corruption has been a problem in almost every society in history, and it continues to be one today. There always have been and always will be corrupt government officials. International businesses can and have gained economic advantages by making payments to those officials, while facilitating payments or speed money are excluded from both the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act and the OECD Convention on Bribery. The ethical implications of making such payments are unclear. In many countries, payoffs to government officials in the form of speed money are part of life. The next factor is moral obligations. Multinational corporations have power that comes from their control over resources and their ability to move production from country to country. Some moral philosophers argue that with power comes the social responsibility for multinationals to give something back to the society. And this is the concept of social responsibility that refers to the idea that business people should consider that social consequences of economic actions when making business decisions, and that there should be a presumption in favor of decisions that have both good economic and social consequences. So I would say that this is like a payoff for people in society. The last part to be checked here is the ethical dilemma. What is an ethical dilemma? The ethical obligations of a multinational corporation toward employment conditions, human rights, corruption, environmental pollution, and the use of power are not always clear-cut. There may be no agreement about accepted ethical principles. From an international business perspective, some argue that what is ethical depends upon one cultural perspective. So here, as a conclusion, what we are going to infer from all of this is that at the end, there is a need of having a balance, having a regulation, a standard of rules to follow in international business in order to have everything guaranteed and equal for all societies. Thank you guys. With this, I'm going to stop here. I'll see you soon.